Yes, following this statement is a video clip of Eliot Spitzer speaking on a Fox media program. I find that interesting that the former Democratic governor and attorney general, much disgraced, now Rupert Murdoch's people find interesting. Everybody knows he's a big-time neocon. Anyway, Rupert Murdoch's lawyer, I think his name was Siskin, received a hard copy of my stuff 6-7 years ago, along with a lot of the other general counsels for various publicly held media corporations such as New York Times, etc. They've known about the truth of my concerns after that Senate Banking Committee in November of 2003 that Eliot Spitzer spoke on, long before he was a governor and long before he was caught with the wrong girl in Washington. That said, I don't know how old that clip is. I've had it in my computer for quite a while, but Spitzer is talking about the need for regulating bankers and how much trouble his little buddy Patterson was in. Anyway, if anybody bothered to listen to my interview with Dr. Rebecca Carney at the end of June, I explained to her my doings with Eliot Spitzer as best I could while dealing with her concerns. I noticed not many people watched it, but for some reason the second segment of my conversation with Bill Deagle was much viewed over Easter. I suspect it was because I mentioned the Catholic Church and the Pope was in a lot of trouble over his priests diddling the kids. I wish people would pay attention to the money, not sexual abuse, for a minute, because it looks like there's going to be another tumble on the stock market. I have no idea why Obama wants to suddenly turn on his friends in Goldman and Sachs, but rest assured I find it more than interesting. The reason I'm posting this YouTube now is because on March the 16th of last year, I called the Governor of Canada's offices, Mark Carney. He used to be an associate of Goldman and Sachs. He was involved with South Africa, getting on the stock market, etc. He was an advisor to both the Liberal and the Conservative Minister of Finance. Mark Carney is very much a player, and I truly do believe that the Bank of Canada is the 13th district of the Federal Reserve Bank. Anyway, I called Mark Carney's office on March the 16th and sent emails. And I will send them again, but there's no need really. They're published on the internet. When I called Mark Carney's office, I was mentioning Goldman and Sachs, Warren Buffett, etc., etc. This is March 16th, right after Bernie Madoff pled guilty, and I had published my email communications with Wendy Olson, the assistant U.S. attorney in New York involved in the Bernie Madoff matter. Within minutes of that conversation with the Bank of Canada, Goldman and Sachs were on my website again, as was News Corp in New York. They did not have to Google it. They had been there before, and they knew exactly where to go, and I suspect that they wanted to see what I had published about my doings with the Bernie Madoff matter. Now, 1 year later, News Corp, by way of the Wall Street Journal on its internet, is quick to report a rumor that the SEC may prosecute Goldman and Sachs. And yet they won't say one word about things that they know to be true for 7 years after they received hard copy. The one fellow that knows that everything that I say is true is Eliot Spitzer. He received hard copy of my documents not once, but twice. And I have 2 answers from him, even a complaint number promising to investigate my stuff in February of 2004, after I got an answer from the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada and the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security with a complaint number. Hell, even the U.S. Special Counsel answered me with the complaint number, and the Office of Special Professional Responsibility, H. Marshall Jarrett, who's now boss of the U.S. Attorneys, for God's sake. What's going on with Goldman and Sachs is very interesting. What's going on with Greece is very interesting. All these people that are We Are Change or whatever should look to to see how many TD bankers attend the Bilderbergers meetings, for God's sakes. And then say, Dave Amos said hi to Frankie Boy McKenna. Anybody paying attention yet?
Nearly 2 years ago, Eliot Spitzer resigned from office. We remember why. But for his first year out of office, he kept a low profile. Since then, he's been speaking publicly about issues of the day. When he does, he often makes headlines. Former Governor Eliot Spitzer is our guest on Good Day New York. We hope you make some this morning. Welcome to the show. What do you do for a living now? What do you do?
Well, a couple things. I write a column for Slate. I teach at CCNY, which is the great City College of New York, which has been an institution generating so many Nobel laureates and great leaders of the past and hopefully the future. And I work in a family business.
You miss
loads of fun.
Real estate, right?
Real estate and other investments.
You miss politics?
Absolutely, and not so much politics, governing. And there's a difference. I think we have too much politics, too little governing. I miss the governing. I miss what I was able to try to do when I was Attorney General and Governor.
I want to ask you about 2006. In 2006, you were a candidate running for governor. You selected David Paterson as your running mate. You essentially made him the lieutenant governor. I've heard that you don't regret that decision, but according to the polls, a lot of New Yorkers find this regrettable. Why did you pick him?
Well, David had tremendous skill in the state senate, and part of governing, of course, is the relationship with the state senate. But let me step back for a moment. No governor in the nation is having an easy go of it these days. Arnold Schwarzenegger, great communicator, great icon, he's having an incredibly tough time. Deval Patrick in Massachusetts. John Corzine got voted out in New Jersey. Nobody's having an easy go. David is in there. Revenue is down 20%. The MTA is running a deficit. Schools need more money. There's no good answer.
Was there anything, though, about his background, his administrative ability, or anything like that that told you that he would be at least adequate as a governor?
It was his relationship, interestingly, with the New York State Senate, where he was the Democratic leader. And since so much of being a governor is getting a legislative package passed, it seemed to me that that would be his forte. And it helped to a certain extent with Joe Bruno before his demise as a political leader. And so those were the factors that we weighed.
You're not talking to him now, are you?
To David? Who I talk to, who I don't talk to, I don't always reveal. But you know what? I would hope he would talk to many people, and if I'm one of them, I'll be honored. Anybody would want to help people who are trying to govern these days, regardless of politics.
You were upstate last week. You were talking about Andrew Cuomo, and you told the newspaper up there that he's playing a game of cat and mouse, and he should stop that. What do you mean by cat and mouse and Andrew Cuomo?
Well, I suppose what I think, if he's going to run for governor, which it's his right to do, of course, then he should answer the hard questions. How would his budget differ? How would he get the bills to the legislature relating to ethics, relating to the reform we need in New York State? In other words, answer the hard questions. Where would his program differ from the existing governor?
There's a political component to this. I mean, he's doing very well in the polls.
Sure.
A lot of people think that he has a lock on this race. Why should he start mixing it up now?
Well, from his perspective, maybe he shouldn't. What I'm saying is from the public's perspective, from the media's perspective, in terms of understanding how candidates will govern, it is right and it is fair to ask those questions. When I was Attorney General, I answered those questions, and I was running for governor long enough so that people had a fair opportunity to say, what would your budget look like? How would you handle education reform, healthcare reform? Those are the issues that I think we should be discussing.
Yesterday we had on the show Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. You've been very critical of her. You say she's malleable. She has no political backbone, really. Tell us more, please.
Well, look, I don't want to be critical of people as individuals. Let's separate substance from individuals. She's a wonderfully nice, decent, good person. One of the things that, unfortunately, I think is part of her record, and I don't know if you went into this on the show, is that she changed her positions on some fundamental issues at points in time when I thought it was not really either you believe something or you don't. And what we need in politics right now are people who know what they believe, who stand up and are forceful in that. If you disagree with them, vote against them, or say, I'll vote for you because I agree with you. But I don't like politicians who vacillate, who change positions, whose views on fundamental issues are so malleable that they're told, if you want this job, change your position.
Was that painful to watch that episode where that choice would have been yours, but it wasn't? Right. I mean, you probably had your own people in mind.
Right. Well, look, many things have been painful, obviously, for the last 2 years, and not being able to participate in the selection of judges, that position, sure, that is something that I regret.
I heard you say recently that we're rebuilding the financial system into the same system we had before the financial meltdown.
Right. Absolutely. The problem we have, we did the easy part, which is to take a lot of money and give it to the banks to prevent them from going insolvent and preventing a meltdown of greater magnitude, but we have not fundamentally reformed it. Reform is the critical piece here. For 50 years, we went without a financial meltdown. Then, since we repealed some fundamental statutes that are critical to protecting consumers and the economy, we have had bubble after bubble. We need to go back to a reformed system. Congress isn't doing it. The president is not pushing for it hard enough.
Mayor Bloomberg has defended the bonus structure. If you want good people, you got to pay for them, that kind of thing.
Right.
Have you seen any kind of substantive reform of the bonus system?
Marginal around the edges. The problem is that we haven't gotten to the root of the problem, which is the too big to fail institutions that know they will get a taxpayer bailout, which they should not get, and if they're going to get it, they should use the money for particular purposes. Paul Volcker, who is the great wise individual who was chairman of the Fed many years ago, he has proposed some reforms that really make sense.
What kind of grader are you at CCNY?
It depends.